Good morning. Thank you for coming. My name's Diana Pohlman. I'm the executive director of our parent-run nonprofit, and it's been a 12-year journey that I thought would be very simply over in a year or two. And thank you for each of you for caring about the next family and the next family and the next family. Can I ask who's a brand new person who's coming here for the first time? Wow. How many children were sick in the last 2 years? I'm sorry, that just, I'm really glad you're here. So first of all, I'd like to thank Tim Sorrell, who's the director of the My Kid Is Not Crazy film, for being here and sharing with you. And I want to thank the team of experts who will be coming and speaking throughout the day. I'm sure all of you know PANDAS is a relatively new diagnosis. It's relatively rare, at least in the record books of the hospitals and in doctors' offices. It's not widely recognized yet. So each of these experts that are speaking today work really, really hard, just like you guys do. I wanted you to see what you have done. This is brand new. This is the first year we've had almost every state have awareness at their government offices. Legislation will continue. You can see that we have insurance in a couple of the states where you see the red heart. So congratulations to that. Also, PANDAS Network is run completely by your donations. We have a few major donors, who give larger donations each year, but together you guys have raised over $1 million since 2013, and half of it has gone to putting on conferences, hiring PR firms for media alerts and flying doctors to events. But you've also funded 2 major projects that are now growing. So we do what we call seed money grants. Columbia University discovered with your seed money grants a genetic marker that looks pretty good for PANDAS and Sydenham's chorea, and they're continuing to expand that research in 2020. And then next, Massachusetts General received $60,000 from your donations, and because they were looking at, in a novel way, how to use MRI to see basal ganglia inflammation. That's not easy to see. People don't see that normally. So they tried a new method, and they were successful. They've just received another $300,000 from the IOCDF, and they're hoping to then get maybe more money from the NIMH. Having imaging for our kids is really, really important, I think. Okay. The next thing I wanted to say is the reason I'm here is I'm going to cry, sorry. My son, and I just wanted him to stand for a minute. He came for the first time to help me. He's 19. This is my son, Garrett. You can sit down now. So he, like you guys, he's the reason that I keep going, and I have a daughter too that developed PANDAS, and he helped me get her better very quickly, and she's fine now. She's 15. So you can get your kids better. Don't worry. Next, I'd like to introduce to you our board member, Heather Korbmacher. Your board member, because it's your nonprofit, Heather Korbmacher. She is the author of a book called What Happened to My Child, A Mother's Courageous Journey to Save Her Son. She's also an educator, an amazing educator who works with kids that have conflict issues. And she is a really brave speaker, and she's going to be here to encourage you, and away we go. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I just got really emotional. Thank you, Garrett, for being here. And all the other, I see other children here. Thank you so much for having the courage to come with your parents and learn alongside them. Last night, there were 50 of us that had an opportunity to gather with each other for some self-care. And I just wanted to ask, for those of you that were here, could you raise your hand? Thank you. The reason that really fills my heart, the reason I want to ask to recognize you is I'm just going to ask that you hold space today while we learn from the doctors that we lean so heavily on. And I want to thank the doctors for the work that you do. It's so important. And I know that it takes a lot of courage to really forge in a new direction in medicine, and it always has historically. But for the parents that are here listening to you, the courage that it takes for us to question professionals that tell us that we're enabling or crazy ourselves or clearly not really understanding medicine. It's hard work, and I just applaud each and every one of you for being here and for the work that you've done. You are my heroes, and I am humbled to have the opportunity to be in a room. What I love for me the most about these conferences that the parents come to is we walk in here and we look around the room and we see in each other's eyes an understanding that a lot of times we don't get. When a person has lost their child, when that child has been ripped from us and yet is still present, a lot of people can't really understand that. I have several family members that are survivors of cancer, and I'm so grateful for that. And at the same time, in the same breath, I have said to them before, I wish it was cancer or something people understood. You know, bring me a lasagna, for crying out loud. Come and visit me instead of looking like you're afraid to be in my home. So 6 years ago, I crashed on this journey when my, at the time, 10-year-old son had what was considered, or is now, I now know, of course at the time I didn't know what was going on, but is now considered a subacute onset. It wasn't that overnight thing. And part of the reason that I had to write my book was because it didn't present exactly like the textbook said. And that was a little bit challenging for me, but because my background is in behavior, 20 years working with children with behavioral symptoms, I now call them, and the families that supported them, I knew that something was definitely wrong. And when the psychiatrist said to me, it looks like this is oppositional defiant disorder, I'm like, yeah, I know that. I know that's what it looks like, but like, he wasn't ever like this, and I've done the assessment. And thank God for my pediatrician who listened to me. Thank God for the IOCDF and for PANDAS Network that I had the resources that I could take back to a doctor who really listened to her client and said, yeah, I think you might be right. I've never heard of this, but let's run tests. Let's see what we can find out. And then diagnosed and said, I have no idea how to treat this. Thank God that we had other doctors that did know how to treat it that we could go to. And thank God for all of you that you have found the same. As I have gone on this journey, the other reason I felt I needed to write my story is because of my background and because I was willing to challenge, or not willing, able and confident, as many of you were, to challenge our providers. I knew that I needed to share my story so that others could have the confidence to fire doctors if you needed to, and to go find those that would really listen to us. And because I also understand that there are a lot of people who get funneled down the pathway of mental health in a system that is broken, and that they needed a voice as well. But as part of this journey, I have also really found that there are beautiful people that I never would have known or met who are in my life, but forever, and that this journey has taken me to just on a different pathway than I ever would have known. So I just want to pass the mic off, because you're going to hear a lot of wonderful information today, and also some hard things to hear as well. But before I walk off the stage here with using the steps, I just wanted to read these last few words. I am getting my life back. I am, however, forever changed. I don't take things for granted. I stop to appreciate the beauty around me. I relish the time we spend together. When I become frustrated, I ask myself, is this really worth being upset about? It's usually not. And I try to look for the joy in every moment instead. I am laughing more often. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to again. And I love more deeply. I have learned that everything we experience is full of wonder, even when it feels like a great weight. The experience itself is profound, and there is something in it for us. I believe that when we open ourselves to what is possible, incredible things happen. My life path has been altered by an illness that is still being debated. But I have my son back. I have my family back. I have my own life richer because of all of it. I believe in the power that each of us has to live this life fully and abundantly when we view our experiences with gratitude. That shift changes everything. I am stronger. I am wiser. I am courageous. I am. And so are all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Next, we're going to have a speaker who is going to be hosting a wonderful event in the end of October in New Hampshire. We have some information outside, right, Tony? Okay. There will be another symposium October 26th called the PANDAS PANS Advances in Diagnosis and Treatment for Post-Infectious Autoimmune Basal Ganglia Encephalitis. So we're looking at a new topic, a new way of discussing it. So I hope you can be there or invite your physicians on October 26th. The next speaker is Dr. Susan Manfull. She's a social psychologist and the mother of Alex Manfull. She lost her life to PANDAS last year, and Susan and her husband, Townie, Bill Manfull, have established a memorial fund in Alex's name. The memorial fund supports the research, education, and treatment of PANDAS in adolescents and young adults. It's a new area that we need to investigate. So thank you, Susan, for coming to speak, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for PANDAS Network and Diana for organizing this, this conference and for everything that you do. Thank you, Heather, for your talk. That was very emotional. Thank you very much. So, Diana asked me if I would say a few words to you this morning, and I told her, as I told Beth Latimer when she asked me the same thing, that I wasn't sure I had a whole lot to offer. Especially to a group of parents like you who already know so much. And she said, say something inspirational. I know you can. But I thought to myself, what could I say to a group of people who are already worried about their child or even their children who've been diagnosed with PANDAS and PANS. And they are desperately seeking answers, even hope, dare I say, when my child died due to PANDAS. I thought that starting point wasn't very inspirational at all. And it reminded me of the first time that I met some parents who have children with PANDAS and PANS. It was on an OCD Awareness Day in Washington, D.C. in 2018. And I could see fear in their eyes when I met them, when my husband and I met them. I thought it was my imagination at first, and then I realized it wasn't. That to them, my husband and I embodied the worst, their greatest fears, in that we had lost our daughter due to PANDAS. But then again, I thought maybe that is a good starting point, that we all need to acknowledge, as the quote of my, the title of my talk yesterday suggests, that there is great gravity to a PANDAS diagnosis. And there is a lot of work to do, work that each of us can play a role, however small. Even the tiniest contribution adds up to something great. And I know you all are already doing so much It's amazing to me, it's humbling to me to see what you've done. I think that I just have a few points to make. I know you know them all, but I just thought maybe they're worth repeating about the things that we need to do and the things that we need to do together. We need to continue to educate the public about PANS and PANDAS. There needs to be much more written about this. When Alex diagnosed herself with PANDAS, there was so little that was out there. There was PANDAS Network, but there was so little that was written about it. Just before she died, I remember that we saw the 2020 special on that. And that was to me, and I could be wrong about this, but from my perspective, that was sort of the beginning of a new wave of public awareness about PANDAS. I think that we need to continue to educate not just the public, but ourselves about that. And obviously, you're doing exactly that here today. We need to increase awareness in the medical community so that our children's symptoms will be recognized sooner, so that treatment will be appropriate and will be provided much more expediently. We need to increase the awareness of it in all the helping professions. I come from a psychology background, and I know in talking to my clinical psychologist friends, they're simply not aware of the difference between the different etiologies of OCD and tics, for example. And in my conversations with them, we have recognized that just if they ask one simple question, have you had strep recently? Did you have strep? Did you have a tick bite, for example, before these OCD symptoms surfaced? That would make all the difference in the world. And I know that my psychologist friends in New Hampshire are going to work towards inserting that very question among their many clinical questions. We need to, as you're doing already, but Tony and I would like to be a part of that, to provide support to the parents and families, you all, of PANDAS and PANS patients. I think it's important, and we were discussing this last night, and I know I'm sort of preaching to the choir here, but I'll say it again anyway, that it's important to understand what to expect when you have a PANDAS diagnosis. Because certainly, we didn't have a PANDAS diagnosis until a month before Alex died, and a really formal diagnosis until just a couple of weeks before she died. But when you get that diagnosis, I mean, your life is never going to be the same. And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. We didn't fully understand that. But of course, Alex's symptoms were really quite different as well, and she was an adult. I think it's also important that we need to keep impressing on one another that we need to take care of ourselves. And I heard here in the presentations yesterday, in my conversations with parents yesterday, and I also just attended the PANS and PANDAS conference in Sweden, and I heard it there over and over, that it's so important to take care of yourselves. And when one of the primary symptoms of your children with PANDAS and PANS is separation anxiety, there's this sense that you can not leave your child. But somehow or another, we have to work it out so that you can, because you need to take care of yourselves. You are part of the primary care support system, if not the main support system, and you need to take care of yourself because you need to be there. So basically, we all need to be advocates and educators and a support system. And fortunately, there really are some fabulous groups in this community we have discovered. We, of course, discovered them well after the fact. But PANDAS Network, Mending Minds, the New England PANDAS Group, Aspire, the Philadelphia Group, I think the Southeastern Group, and I know there's so many more. There's one in New Hampshire as well. And they do just that. They do a fabulous job of educating people, of raising awareness, and of working to change legislation so that insurance companies cover treatment. I am still bowled over by the fact that so many insurance companies, and 45 states do not cover treatment for this disorder. I'm very proud to say that we do now in New Hampshire. These groups also raise money. As Diana said, there needs to be more research. I mean, that's such an understatement, to understand the causes and to find better treatment. So I wish we had known about all of these groups before or when Alex thought that she had PANDAS. Because there really are some truly amazing people, and all of you are in this room today. There's parents, there's family members, there's friends, there's doctors, there's researchers, and they're all passionately working to find answers. I've had the privilege to interview many of, or actually quite a few of the people in this community, physicians, including psychiatrists and general practitioners and psychologists, and lots of researchers. And I've learned a tremendous amount, because I have in the words of Alex in the back of my mind. When she was diagnosed, she said, "Mom, when I'm better, I'm going to write about PANDAS, because I don't want anyone else to ever have to go through this again." So she's not here to do that, so I'm, and my husband, and her godmother, and her friends, and her family, and I know all of you are trying to do exactly that. And I do feel that there's really great momentum in the past few years. Just in the last year, it feels that there's so much going on in science and treatment and in awareness. But we need more research, need more doctors, need more articles in the lay and professional publications. But I left the conference yesterday, and I left that conference in Sweden feeling very positive. I feel that we can make progress. I think of the progress that's been made in some types of cancer, in HIV, for example, and diabetes, and we can do that. I know we can. And even, dare I say, maybe a cure is on the horizon. Maybe that's just not crazy. You may know that Alex's brain is now in the tissue bank of NIMH, and I think that will provide a lot of material for research. I hope that people start applying to have that tissue for research, because as of yet, as I said yesterday, according to NIMH, no one has applied for it. Now, I happen to know people have applied for it and have voiced their interest in it, but they tell me that they don't have any formal applications there. So I'd like to have you help me work to change that, to get researchers to look at her brain, because this is the only PANDAS brain there, and her brain showed significant brain damage. It needs to be examined. So our hearts are broken, but I hope I still have some inspiration left in me that Diana saw. And I wish my daughter were here to reap the benefits, but it will help warm our hearts to know that your children will reap the benefits of the research that I know will be coming forth, and of more doctors and more viable treatments. I know Alex will be happy, and I know that I, my husband, our family, our friends, and you all will work very hard to make that happen. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mary.